Today's lesson is The Patient Cat. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
Hello, I'm Kiki.
And today we're going to summarize a story that was written quite some time ago. It's like a fable. It was published way back in 1881. And the title of our story today is The Patient Cat, which means a cat that has a lot of patience. It can wait.
Oh, that's right. Do you have a lot of patience, Roger?
I'd like to think so, but sometimes I don't. I get kind of impatient with various people if they're too slow, but for the most part, I think I'm patient. How about yourself?
I think I'm pretty patient too, but occasionally you get a little bit impatient too, and you just want to get things going, especially when you think somebody's doing something a little wrong or the way they're doing it. But I'm really interested to find out about today's cat and if this cat has any patience.
Okay, so let's begin our story by introducing the story with the first paragraph. We will listen.
The Patient Cat. One late spring day, a cat named Hen climbed to the top of a tree and spotted a nest on one of its branches. The nest was newly built and empty, but it would soon be occupied, for summer was near. "I'll bide my time," Hen said.
大家好，第一部分首先我们来看到片语 bide one's time 指的是等待时机。例如 Oscar decided to bide his time until a better job opportunity came along. Oscar 决定等待时机，直到更好的工作机会出现。或者 Biding one's time can be difficult, but patience often pays off. 静待时机是不容易的，但耐心往往会得到回报。
It's time now for us to discuss the contents of the first part of our lesson for today. Again, the title is The Patient Cat. Now, remember, if you're patient, you're willing to wait for things, especially if it takes a long time for something to happen. If somebody's taking forever to get ready to go out the door, you need to be patient, and you can't be impatient. And this reminds me of a phrase, good things come to those who wait. That means you need to have patience. If you wait for a while, you might get something good. And also the phrase, patience is a virtue.
Well, that's right. So let's take a look at our story today. It starts off with, one late spring day, a cat named Hen climbed to the top of a tree and spotted a nest on one of its branches. First off, a cat named Hen?
Weird,
what's that all about?
Yeah, hen is usually a mother chicken or a female chicken that lays eggs, but in this particular case, it's a cat with the name Hen.
Okay, well, it's also possible that Hen might be a short form for another name like Henrietta or something like that.
Could be.
Okay, so the story starts off saying one late spring day. So this is suggesting that this story takes place later on during the spring season. So not late in the day, but actually late in the spring. Okay, so this might be end of April, early May, or even end of May. So around that area, the later part of the spring season.
That's definitely not now. For sure, it's summer now. We're getting to the end of June, but this story again takes place in the late spring, and we've got a cat named Hen, and she climbs to the top of a tree, and when she's up there, she spotted a nest on one of the tree's branches. So to spot just means to see. She noticed it there. Branches, of course, are in the tree. That's where the leaves are, and the nest was newly built and empty, but it would soon be occupied, for summer was near. Again, this does happen during the summer. Birds build their nests, and then they lay eggs, and then the eggs hatch, and you've got little baby birds. And, of course, cats love to eat birds, and even baby birds are quite appetizing to them.
That's right. So the cat named Hen is getting excited because it wants to find out what's going to be in the nest. So she says, I'll bide my time, Hen said. Well, what does bide my time mean, Roger?
Well, it means to take your time. You're just going to sit around and wait for the ideal situation. The word bide does mean to remain or stay calm for a while or to stay someplace and not move around. But usually the word bide here is used exclusively in this sentence, to bide your time. Yeah, I'll just wait and see what happens. That's what Hen said, at least to herself, if cats indeed could talk. Okay, we're at the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part. It's a little long, so please be patient and listen to it as it's read.
A week later, Hen peeped into the nest and saw 2 eggs. Eggs may be good, she thought, but young birds are better. So she groomed herself and caught some mice to pass the time. As time wore on, Hen found 5 eggs in the nest. The sight of additional eggs aroused her appetite, but her preference for birds over eggs held strong, so she continued to wait patiently. When the eggs eventually hatched, the sight of the baby birds excited Hen. However, being newly born, the birds were as thin as skeletons. Chubby birds would taste much better, Hen thought, as she watched the father bird feed his young daily.
第二部分我们来看到 peep 这个动词的意思是窥视、偷看或是瞥。例如 The child peeped through the keyhole to see the hidden gifts in the room. 那个孩子透过钥匙孔偷看藏在房间里的礼物。或者是 Curiosity led Michael to peep at the diary lying on the table. 好奇心驱使 Michael 偷看桌上的日记。接下来是动词 groom， 它有梳理或是刷洗的意思。例如 It is a good idea to groom your dog's fur every couple of weeks. 每隔几周梳理一次狗毛是个好主意。再来是片语 wear on， 意思是时间慢慢过去或是缓慢流逝。我们可以说 As the evening wore on, the party became more lively. 随着夜晚缓慢前进，派对变得更加热闹。再举一个例子 The meeting seemed to wear on forever with no conclusion in sight. 会议似乎会永无止境地拖延下去，看不到任何结论。
All right, let's talk about part 2 of our story, The Patient Cat, and see if Hen was being patient enough to see what arrived in the nest. Okay, so a week later, Hen peeped into the nest and saw 2 eggs. So I guess Hen was being patient. She waited, and a week later, she looked into the nest. She peeped in. When you're peeping into something, you're not totally sticking your head out, or you're not being obvious when you're looking at something. So she's quietly looking into the nest, trying to hide behind the nest so whatever's inside doesn't see her. And when she peeps in, when she looks into the nest, she saw 2 eggs.
Right. So, of course, she peeped into the nest. She looked into the nest so that the other birds would not notice. She kind of did this in a sneaky way. And she thought, eggs may be good to eat. They do look yummy. But then she thought, but young birds are better. So maybe she can wait for the eggs to hatch, and then she can eat the baby birds.
Okay, so that requires Hen to be a little more patient to wait for the birds to hatch. So she groomed herself and caught some mice to pass the time. So as she's waiting for the eggs to hatch, for the birds to come out, she grooms herself and she does some other activities like catching mice to pass the time. And grooming, what does grooming mean? Well, it means to take care of her fur and to take care of herself. We often see cats grooming themselves. They are licking their paws and their face and their body. They are cleaning themselves themselves and sometimes cleaning off the dead hair or whatever's dirty on them. And we as humans, we groom too. When we groom, we might brush our hair, brush our teeth, and for some people, they would shave their beards. So basically, grooming is taking care of yourself and how you look and being clean.
Yep, especially with your hair and especially with cats because they lick their fur all the time to make sure their fur is nice and clean. So she groomed herself and she was a little bit hungry. She passed on the eggs, so she decided to hunt some mice in the meantime. So to pass the time, to bide her time, we could also say, she caught some mice and she chomped them on down. Now, as time wore on, as time continued on into the future, Hen found 5 eggs in the nest. So there were originally 2 eggs, and now there are a total of 5 eggs. And of course, if you see that many eggs, you're going to be really hungry.
Oh, that's right. So she must have thought, good thing I was patient. 3 more eggs. The sight of additional eggs aroused her appetite. But her preference for birds over eggs held strong. So she continued to wait patiently. So even though she saw more eggs and it made her even more hungry, she was still willing to wait because she really wanted to eat the birds instead of the eggs, right?
Yep.
So her feelings for that or her preference over the eggs were strong, and she decided that she was going to continue to wait patiently.
Yep, eggs are kind of soft and not very hard, but if you wait for the birds to hatch, you can eat the birds. And, of course, then you'll have some feathers to eat, and maybe the beaks can be kind of crunchy. So, of course, she wanted to wait for the birds to actually come out of those eggs. And, of course, that preference held strong. She still had that preference for birds over eggs. That's a phrase we could learn here, to prefer something over something else. I prefer hamburgers over pizza, for example. Now, moving on to the next paragraph, it says, when the eggs eventually hatched, the sight of the baby birds excited Hen. So, yes, indeed, this is what eggs do. They hatch when baby birds come out of the eggs. The eggs hatch, actually, not the birds themselves. And this happens after a long period of time. Finally, in the end, they hatched. That's what eventually means. I thought about it for a long time, but eventually I decided to go to Stanford instead of Harvard.
However, being newly born, the birds were as thin as skeletons. So these birds, they just hatched. You know, usually we'll see mother birds bring over their worms and insects to feed the baby birds. But they were newly born, so they just came out of their eggs. So they were very small and skinny. They were as thin as skeletons. A skeleton is a framework of bones in our body that support our muscles and organs and basically make up who we are.
Right, so that's the whole group of bones together, the skeleton. And of course, the skeleton is comprised of bones. Now, chubby birds would taste much better, Hen thought, as she watched the father bird feed his young daily. So, of course, she's being patient here. She originally wanted to eat the eggs. She thought, no, I'll wait for more eggs, and I'll wait for the baby birds to hatch, and then I'll wait for the baby birds to grow up. And, of course, if baby birds grow up, they will be nice and chubby. Chubby just means kind of pleasantly fat. Fat, but not way too fat like obese people.
Right. So if the chubby birds, if they were a little bit fatter, they would have more to them to eat, more meat and probably more flavor. So Hen would prefer that. Hen thought as she watched the father bird feed his young daily. So she's watching patiently as these little baby birds get chubbier and chubbier. Okay, that is the end of part 2. Let's listen to our third and final part.
Surely now they must be fat enough, Hen said to herself one day as she climbed enthusiastically up the tree, licking her whiskers. But when she reached the nest, she saw that the young birds had flown away. Well, of all the horrid, mean, ungrateful creatures I ever saw, Hen said. As Hen's story shows, patience may be a virtue, but timing is also key.
第3部分我们看到 enthusiastically 这个单字，它是副词，指的是热情的、激动的或是热心的。例如 The students listened enthusiastically as the teacher explained what would happen during the class field trip. 学生们兴致勃勃地聆听老师说明在校外教学期间会发生什么事。又或者说 Shelley works enthusiastically, always bringing positive energy to the team. Shelley 工作热情，总是为团队带来正能量。下一个看到形容词 ungrateful， 表示不知感恩的、不领情的或是忘恩负义的。例如 It's ungrateful to forget those who helped you when you were in need. 忘记那些在你需要时帮助你的人是忘恩负义的。或者 Phyllis felt hurt by her friend's ungrateful response to her thoughtful gift. Phyllis 因朋友对她送的贴心礼物不领情而感到受伤。最后介绍 virtue， 这个名词的意思是美德、德性或是优点。例如 In school, children learn the virtues of working with others and the joys of learning. 在学校，孩子们学习与他人合作的美德和学习的乐趣。再看一个例子 Ray's patience has proven to be a virtue in his high-stress job, as it helps him handle difficult situations calmly. 事实证明 Ray 的耐心在他的高压工作中是一种优点，因为这能帮助他冷静地处理困难的情况。
Okay, so again, Hen, the cat, is exercising patience here, and here's what she said to herself one day. Surely now they must be fat enough. Remember, she said this after the father bird was feeding his young baby birds daily or every day on a daily basis. What a good father. He did not fly away and leave the family behind. And, of course, here the cat knows that the birds are getting fatter and fatter because they are being fed by the father every day. And she said this as she climbed enthusiastically up the tree, licking her whiskers. Okay, so if you do something enthusiastically, that means you're really excited about that. It's something that really makes you happy. And enthusiastic, of course, is the adjective. Lots of people are enthusiastic about going to rock concerts, for example.
Right. So enthusiastic, you're getting very excited. It's something that you really want to do and you're happy to do it. So she climbed the tree enthusiastically, licking her whiskers. So as she's climbing up the tree, she's getting hungry, she's getting excited, she's enthusiastic, so she licks her whiskers. So when you're licking your whiskers, you're trying to show that you're a hungry little cat. And her whiskers are the long hairs that are growing from the sides of her face, close to the mouth. And usually these whiskers kind of help protect the animal's mouth and help dirty things from getting into their mouth or in their face. And we see dogs have whiskers. Lots of cute, fluffy animals have whiskers. And usually whiskers are a lot thicker than their hair. So she's licking her whiskers, showing a sign of hunger. But when she reached the nest, she saw that the young birds had flown away.
Oh no, it was too late. So I guess if you're too patient, then you might miss out on your opportunity. Again, she was licking her whiskers. That reminds me of the phrase we often use in English when we're really excited to be about to eat something. We say we lick our chops. Or dogs do that as well, or cats do that as well. Your chops, of course, refers to your lips. Oh, I'm going to lick my chops and start eating that steak. It looks so tasty. And in any case here, it was too late for her because the baby birds, or at least the young birds, which are now chubby, had flown away. And here's what Hen said to herself.
Well, of all the horrid, mean, ungrateful creatures I ever saw, Hen said. So she's quite frustrated and angry because all the birds have flown away. So she's described these birds as horrid, mean, ungrateful creatures. Here's a couple of words that we can look at. Horrid basically just means horrible, when something is not nice and it's annoying and it makes somebody really dislike somebody or something. And of course, being mean is to not be nice. And ungrateful is to not be thankful for things or to not be gracious or grateful about certain things. So in this case, Hen is saying that these birds are being ungrateful.
Right, and this phrase here of all the is kind of tricky. It's referring to this particular category of ungrateful creatures. So, of course, there could be many kinds of ungrateful creatures, but here she's emphasizing that this creature is the most ungrateful of all. So, of all the horrid, mean, ungrateful creatures I ever saw, this one is the worst. I've seen a lot of those terrible creatures, but this one takes the cake. It is the worst one of all. And horrid just means terrible, awful, something you don't want to encounter in your life. How was your commuter ride to school today? Oh, it was horrid. The traffic was terrible. The bus was stuffed. I couldn't breathe. It was terrible. It was horrid. And of course, if somebody does you a favor, you better not be ungrateful. You should be grateful.
Right. So, Hen has been such a patient cat waiting for these birds to grow up. But at the end of the day, and for the whole time that she's waited for them, she did not get to eat the birds. So she's really angry and the birds have flown away. So as Hen's story shows, patience may be a virtue, but timing is also key.
Right, so we're using that phrase again. Patience is a virtue. You might hear that from your parents when you want to eat that cookie and your mother tells you, no, you better wait and eat your dinner first. Patience is a virtue. If you eat your dinner, then you can have that chocolate chip cookie. Okay, that brings us to the end of our summary for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文一开始写到 One late spring day, a cat named Hen climbed to the top of a tree. 好，他说啊，在春末的某一天，一只名叫 Hen 的猫爬到了树梢上。句子里面这个 a cat named Hen 这个 named 前方省略了 which was 或者是 that was， 这是将形容词子句简化为分词片语的用法。那我们来看看它的简化过程。碰到主格关系代名词像 who, which 或是 that 所引导的形容词子句，我们第一个简化步骤就是先省略掉关系代名词。那第二个步骤就是把动词改为分词 VING 或是 PP， 这时候就会形成了分词片语。那原本的动词它是主动，我们就是用现在分词 VING。被动就用过去分词 PP。 好，所以这时候我们就会看到名词后面就直接接了 VING 或 PP 来修饰了。举例来说， The guy who is standing at the door is Pam's boyfriend. 站在门口的男子是 Pam 的男朋友。那句子里面的 who is standing at the door 这是形容词子句。那 who is standing 可以简化成 standing， 所以句子就变成 The guy standing at the door is Pam's boyfriend。好，那我们就看到例句里面 the guy 后面就直接接了现在分词 standing 来修饰咯。再看一个例句是 The boy is holding a jar which is filled with marbles. 男孩手里拿着一个装满弹珠的罐子，其中的 which is filled with marbles 这是形容词子句。那 which is filled 可以简化成 filled， 那就会变成 The boy is holding a jar filled with marbles。 然后我们就会看到 a jar 这个名词后面就直接接了过去分词 filled 来修饰咯。好，在课文第二部分有一句写到，这些鸟刚出生，瘦得像骷髅一样。那文中是用 as thin as skeletons 来描述瘦得像骷髅一样。好，那这边我们要来补充一些以这个 as 形容词 as 名词或者是形容词 as 名词这样的形式来比喻的惯用语。好，第一个介绍的是 as busy as a bee 或者是 busy as a bee， 就是像蜜蜂一样忙碌，那就可以表达非常忙碌极忙碌的。As easy as pie 或者是 easy as pie， 像派一样简单，那就是非常容易的。As cute as a button 或是 cute as a button， 像纽扣一样可爱，那就表示小巧可爱的。As strong as an ox， 像牛一样壮的，或者是 strong as an ox， 那壮如牛就可以表达很强壮的意思咯。还有 as light as a feather 或是 light as a feather， 像羽毛一样轻，那就可以表达轻如鸿毛。还有 as clear as day 或是 clear as day， 像白天一样清楚，那就表示一清二楚的，显而易见的。如果说我们是用 as clear as mud 或是 clear as mud， 像泥巴一样清晰， 那这就是反讽用法，用来表达混乱或不清楚哦。好，那以上今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Peep. Melissa peeped through the curtains to see who was at the door. Groom. Louis spent an hour in front of the mirror, carefully grooming his hair for his job interview. Eventually. After searching for some time, they eventually remembered where they had parked the car. Skeleton. During his hike, Warren came across the skeleton of a snake that must have died months earlier. Chubby. Despite its chubby appearance, the cat was surprisingly quick on its feet. Enthusiastically. Ashley enthusiastically agreed to organize the charity dinner. Virtue. Tony's kindness is seen by his friends as his greatest virtue.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, have you ever missed out on something good because you waited too long to act, or because you didn't wait long enough? What happened?
Oh, I think this has happened to me several times. One time, I missed out on a really good pizza. At the time, I just didn't feel like having pizza. But afterwards, when I got home, I thought about all my friends and their happy faces eating that nice pizza pie. I really regretted it.
Okay, well, of course, I have to think of this in terms of girls. When I was younger, of course, I had met lots of pretty interesting and smart girls. And, of course, if you're a boy, you can't wait too long, because if you wait too long, then the girl is going to lose interest in you. You better act fast. Waiting too long can cause you to be all by yourself.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Kiki.
I am Roger.
See you next time.